This is Dave Weiss, and this is a little different video from what you're used to. What we're doing here is the so-called James Bond or Pink Panther bass flute sound and how to get it. And it's kind of an interesting sound. You hear it on a lot of film scores and TV shows from the 60s and 70s and from shows and TV shows now, of course, that are trying to evoke that era and that sound. But oftentimes people don't get the sound right. And sometimes it's just one of the lower flutes playing. That kind of doesn't make it. It's a particular sound. It's actually something that's very easy to do. It's easier to do than actually finding a bass flute or a bass flute player, to tell you the truth. But for this one, I was thinking of what to do for the bass flute. And the thing is that what is probably the most recognizable sound of the bass flute is this so-called James Bond or Pink Panther sound. And there's a particular way to get it. Now, just historically, like when it kind of started out, at least to the best of my knowledge, it's kind of low flutes and alto flutes. I think that's what the orchestration for the original for Pink Panther was. But bass flute over the years has been used more and more. And there's a way to get the sound, and what you need to do is you need multiple players. That's one of the important things to do. It's got to be like 3 or 4 tracks layered with them playing pretty much exactly the same thing. And you have to articulate together. You can't be sloppy playing or anything like that. And it's got to be a very cool sound. It's got to have no vibrato to it. And the fourth thing is kind of like a secret ingredient, just a little special sauce sort of thing that comes in at the end. And I'll talk about that more at the end because we want to hear the track, and I want you to hear an example of what this sounds like in action. I've been asked to do this sound many times over the years, especially in commercials, as they try to evoke that 60s or 70s thing. And here's a clip, just a short part of a commercial I did for Martini and Rossi, the vermouth company, the Italian vermouth company. And they had this big ad campaign back in the 90s where they evoked the James Bond thing. And so here's just a clip of it. I think it's only like 15 seconds, so check it out. I did this for Duotone Audio Group here in New York. Pete Nashel, a really good friend of mine. We've done so many great things over the years. So check this out. Love that commercial. We had a lot of fun working on that. I got to play 4 or 5 bass flute tracks on that, and that was a big ad campaign back in the 90s. Come back to my YouTube channel in the future, David Weiss Flute on YouTube. I'm gonna pull down a bunch of clips of that from the internet over the next few weeks because they had a lot of fun with that, and they had making of videos of how they made it's not just one commercial. There's a series of commercials. It's kind of like a running gag, running story. So check that out in the future. In any case, you notice that I played, as I said, 4 bass flutes, at least 4, maybe 5. And that's one of the secrets to getting the sound, is that there has to be a number of tracks layered on top of each other. So there's a bit of chorusing that goes on. And there should be no vibrato in the sound. It should be very cool. And everybody needs to play together. You can't have a laggard. It can't be like falling behind the beat or anything. Everything should be fairly crisp, and that's kind of the beginnings of getting the sound. And then there's the element of beating in the sound, and I'll talk about that later. Why don't we listen short little clip for this just as a demonstration? And you're looking at the session right now. You see all the bass flutes of the blue on the left. Let me see if I can get my pointer working here. Where's my mouse? I made it extra large for today. These are all the bass flutes, and then all the processing is in green. And then there's a pad, synth pad, a bass, a drum, master, click, and the rest is just for show at this point. And of course, the transport control down here. But I'm going to cut out, and we're going to just close up on the flute tracks in a minute because you really don't need the other stuff. These 4 blue tracks, this is what we're going to be working with: bass flute 1, 2, 3, and 4. Whatever program you're using, you have to be able to eventually combine several takes, and to get to that's how you get the sound. The sound is multiple flutes playing at once. And so that's a big deal. So, get to know your software and see, can it do that? I call this Martini. This was for, because of course James Bond drank martinis, so it's a cool track. It's a little on the slow side for this, but it definitely could work for the right scene, that's for sure. You'll see there's panning here. This is panned hard left. It might be hard to see on the screen because it gets a little slow. Uh, General rant against Pro Tools. Some of this stuff is so small to read. I mean, you got to get out of your seat and put your head next to the screen. What is that microphone? What So you got the panning here, hard left. 2 is around 10 o'clock. 3, which is really the main instrument, that's center, and 4, whichever way you want to call it, is hard right. And the track starts with just one of the bass flutes, and it's the same 8-bar melody or so repeated 2 or 3 times. And each time I add another one of these instruments, so it grows a little bit, which is good orchestration. But also, I wanted you to hear what it sounds like by itself, and then you add 2, 3, and 4, because once you hit about 3 or 4 together, then you're getting the sound, and that's a big deal. Okay, so why don't we listen to the track at once, and then we'll analyze it. We'll go through it. Yeah, so that's all solo so far. Next one kicks in. I think it's 1. And I think 4 kicks in here. And now number 2 kicks in. And ideally, you get a fade in here and take it on. Stop. Sometimes it just has a mind of its own. Yeah, my wife will tell you how I'm always yelling at the software, right? In any case, I think you got a good idea of what this sound is like there. And yeah, it's, the growing part of it. Also realize that there was no vibrato in the sound. And being the same players playing it 4 times, my performance was very clearly almost identical each time, which is very important. You don't want a sloppy player on this. That kind of screws everything up. If you have 4 people doing it, you're doing it live, and one person is lagging behind, that can really kind of make it real muddy. So you want to really be very crisp with the articulation, but no vibrato, that's definitely part of the sound too. But there's a natural bit of chorusing that happens that's, I think, very important. Even you can also call it slightly out of tune. That's an important part of the sound, but that should be very sparingly, just so there's a little bit of beating in the sound. You don't want it perfectly in tune, just a little something that gives it a little bit of life. Okay, that's pretty much it. I hope you had fun on this and you learned something. This is Dave Weiss for Kingma Flutes and the Kingma Bass Flute. Check out my YouTube channel if you get a chance. That's YouTube, David Weiss Flute, and of course Ava Kingma site, and all those goodies on there. There's lots of really great instruments, and a lot of instruments can be modified in many different ways. So that's pretty interesting. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found this informative. Thank you very much.